You're listening to What We've Learned in 50 Years. Dad, Matt Payton, 50 years ago, 1965, you left Scotland for France. And I'm sure you had a few hurdles to jump to make it to France. How did that happen?
There were a few hurdles. The biggest one is the language problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to convince a few people, which meant hurdles, to convince them that France was where I was going.
So what was the very first step? Because you don't learn French overnight. So where did you go? How did it all start?
Well, I was advised by these friends of the mission to have a test down in London. Mm-hmm. And I went down there, and so these teachers in this language school, French teachers, put on these huge big tapes. That's what they had in those days. Mm-hmm. And they said, now repeat what you hear. So I couldn't repeat anything because I didn't understand a word of French what was coming over these tapes.
So did you give up and say, maybe I'm called to some other country? Or?
No, I said to these folks why I wanted to go to France. And I said why, my reason. And so they eventually wrote back. They had to give an answer to things. And they said, this man is convinced he will go to France and he will get the language.
So you finally convinced them that France was the place for you, and you crossed the channel. And where did you start in France?
I started by going down south to France to join a mission, and I was there for several months. I could speak in English the first day there, and then I was told from now on it's French.
So they had a bit of grace on day one, and then from day two onwards, it was French only, in the deep end.
In the deep end I had to go.
Did you drown?
I didn't drown, no. I managed to swim, and after 3 months I could follow what was being said in French.
So after 3 months swimming in the French language, where did that lead you to?
Automatically to a language school in Paris. Mm-hmm. And during that time I was living at an institute where students were preparing for missions as well.
Right.
So I was with them all the time, hearing French at the language school, so I was really getting into the deep end now.
Deep end and swimming better.
Swimming better.
So while in Paris, any exams you had to pass?
Yes, several small ones. Then the big one came.
Uh-huh.
And for the big one, we had to be really top for the mission's sake. Mm-hmm. And so I did pass my exam, but it's quite funny.
What happened?
In the end, we were all sitting, doing the same exam, and I finished before everyone else.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I thought I was good. So I went down to the cafeteria to have a drink, and after that others came down while we were chatting. They said something. I said, what was that? Turned the page over, there was more to do. Well, I didn't do the rest. I didn't finish all the paper for the exam.
But you still passed it?
I passed it. They gave me my diploma.
So what's the key or the principle we can take from your story today?
There are two very important things. I learned this when I arrived in France down the south. Have a love and a compassion for the people you're going to reach. Mm-hmm. Secondly, persevere with the language.
So we can also say, if you really, really love the people, one way of showing you love them is to learn their heart language.
That's right.
Thank you, Dad, for sharing.